Xabi Alonso's first game as Real Madrid manager ends in a 1-1 draw against Al Hilal, and it was a great game. Let's just start off with that. That was a really good watch. One of the better games I've watched at the Club World Cup this season, and I think a large part of that has to do with how impressive Al Hilal were. We're going to talk about both Alonso and Inzaghi, some of the players on either side, how I think this game kind of went from the first half to the second half, because I think it was somewhat a game of two halves, but Al Hilal, I think, deserve massive credit today. Now, we've seen a lot of the bigger sides in terms of name really come into this tournament so far and cruise after one game. You look at City today against Wydad, easy 2-0. There was a little slip up at one here or there, but for the most part, City were comfortable. Chelsea against LAFC, similar. PSG against Atleti were dominant. Bayern Munich, the less said about them, the better. But Real Madrid today, although you could argue we're probably playing better opposition than all those teams, bar maybe Atleti, really kind of struggled throughout this game. I think they had moments where they kind of showed flashes of brilliance, but overall, I think Al Hilal deserve massive credit because they were also a team with a new manager at the helm who's only really coached them a handful of games in Simone Inzaghi. Now, Inzaghi has been at the forefront of a lot of talk over the last few weeks. Obviously, the last game he coached before this one today was a 5-0 loss, a historic 5-0 loss at the hands of PSG, and there's been a lot of talk about Inzaghi's name since then. Is he an overrated manager? Is he a failure for flopping 3 competitions with Inter? Was he tactically outclassed? Did he kind of just chalk the game off because he was more focused on Al Hilal? Now, I'm of the opinion, and I was of the opinion before this game, that I actually think Inzaghi's head wasn't on the final in the last few weeks. I have no way of proving that, but for everything I know about Inzaghi and the way he prepares his teams for games and how tactically astute he is, there's losing and then there's getting absolutely demolished and outcoached the way he was. And I personally believe that I think Inzaghi's head was in Saudi instead of in Munich on the night. And in fact, in preparation for that game. And I think when you look at this game, it proves it, man. Seriously, Enrique is an amazing coach. PSG is an amazing team. They probably beat Inter on any given day. But 5-0, I just don't think his head was 100% on preparing his team to play the best final possible. I think he was distracted. And maybe unsettled by the Al Hilal offer that was kind of looming over his head. And I think this game really proved it because, guys, Inzaghi, quite simply, is one of the best knockout managers in world football. Tactically, the guy is gold. And I think in just a few training sessions, he has made Al Hilal already adopt a few of the principles that kind of sum up Inzaghi ball, right? Obviously, Al Hilal are a good team anyways. They absolutely storm the Saudi League most years, as far as I know. And in the Asian Champions League, they are a pretty good team, right? So Al Hilal is a top team with very good players, by the way. You look throughout that team, and they are littered with players that you'll recognize from European clubs, whether it's Bono, Koulibaly, Milinkovic-Savic, Neves, etc. But I do think Inzaghi already has kind of put his fingerprints on this team, and that was evident at times because they really popped it around Real Madrid, particularly in that first half. They really found a rhythm in possession. They really kind of found weaknesses in Real Madrid's game and continued to poke and probe at them until chances kind of came out of that. And in the first half, the game finishes 1-1. The half finishes 1-1, excuse me. I think Al Hilal were very unlucky not to be leading that half. Real Madrid, on the other hand, of course, also dealing with a new manager in Xabi Alonso, and he's actually gotten a few players through the door, unlike Inzaghi. Trent has come in, Huijsen has come in, both of them featured today, and I thought Huijsen was very impressive at times. Trent, less so. I think in the second half, he kind of picked it up a little bit, but there were times where I was looking at Trent and thinking, I think Al Hilal have really identified you as a potential weakness. I think they're starting to kind of get in behind you. A lot of chances being created on your side, but for the most part, a little too early to kind of pass immediate judgment on either of those two guys. But at least Alonso's gotten his players. Al Hilal in the last few weeks have bid for Bruno, huge, gotten rejected. Osimhen, been rejected. Theo Hernandez, as things stand, still rejected. They haven't been able to get anyone over the line, but you wouldn't be able to tell that off the basis of the 90 minutes today. Now, Xabi Alonso and Inzaghi. What's really interesting for me here, especially as a Man United fan, is the fact that both these guys, up to today, have largely been managers who deploy a 3 at the back system. That's their bread and butter up to this point. Whether it was at Lazio or Inter or Bayer Leverkusen, their sides play some iteration of 3 at the back. But on their very first day on the job, playing against each other, neither of these guys have gone for their formation. In fact, they've both played 4 at the back. And I'm someone with Ruben Amorim who's kind of been on the record saying, I don't really think the formation holds as much stock or it matters as much as some people are making it out to be, guys. Right? There's plenty of successful 3 at the back managers. Look at the Champions League final. Inter made it by playing 3 at the back. Look at what Leverkusen did a year ago. They did it by playing 3 at the back. I think the formation talk is largely exaggerated. However, I also think it's exaggerated in the people who hold it to such a high esteem as well too. A formation matters, but managers' philosophies are not based on the formation. Their philosophies are based on defensive shape and in possession and out of possession movement and chance creation. Like that's how a manager's philosophy is kind of based. It's not based on a formation. A formation is just the way the players are lined up on the pitch, but how they move within the formation is really more important. I firmly believe that, and I think full evidence of that is you look at Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel has coached 3 at the back at PSG at times, then shifted to 4-2-2, then played 4-2-3-1, then went to then went to Chelsea, went back to 3 at the back, then went to Bayern, played 4 at the back. His philosophy is not 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1. He adapts it to the players he has. However, the philosophy and the way he wants his players to operate in whatever formation he plays in, that's what matters. And I think that's shown today in the likes of Alonso and Inzaghi. I don't think Alonso will play a day 3 at the back at Real Madrid. And if he does, I'll be quite surprised because I don't think he has the players to play at 3 at the back. So that's not me looking at Amorim and saying, bro, you got to change it up, because at the end of the day, maybe he looks at these players and thinks they are suited to 3 at the back. I personally don't believe so. But that's just kind of my two cents on it, because I saw a lot of talk beforehand from Man United fans saying, well, look, why is Amorim sticking with 3 at the back if these guys don't? I think there's truth on either side. But if we're talking about the game primarily, I really think Al Hilal had the better of the play in the first half. I think they ripped through Real Madrid a number of times. They kept possession very well against Real Madrid a number of times. And I think that's really impressive, because how many times do we see an Asian side dominate one of the bigger European teams, even at international level? It doesn't really happen too much. And yes, I know Al Hilal are not a team littered with Asian players, right? Their head coach is Italian. They've got a lot of players abroad. I completely understand that, but still, they aren't as good a team as Real Madrid. The Saudi league is not as good a league as La Liga. And yet, Al Hilal really held their own against Real Madrid today. One player I really want to highlight was Al Dasari, I think that's his name, the left winger. Because, man, obviously we've seen him on the international stage with Saudi Arabia, right? What he did against Argentina a few years back. He's a great player. But today, up against Trent Alexander-Arnold, really gave Trent a hard time. I mean, the darting runs that he kind of made against him, in behind him, going one-on-one against him, getting himself into scoring positions, almost bent one into the far corner off a terrific move that he was heavily involved with. I was really impressed with him for the most part. Ruben Neves and Milinkovic-Savic holding it down in the middle against Tchouaméni, Valverde, and Bellingham. I mean, that shows you the caliber of player that Al Hilal are kind of boasting in this team. And Bono, of course, coming up with some huge saves, in particular that penalty save against Valverde in the second half, which I thought was a bit fortunate for Real Madrid to kind of get. I didn't think that was the most blatant penalty I've ever seen, and ball don't lie, as they say. But Real Madrid, man, I think, again, very, very slow and kind of lethargic in possession. I do think that it will take a lot of time for Xabi Alonso to get his ideas across to this team. And I actually think it's going to take a few more transfers. I don't think Real Madrid is currently constructed, even when Mbappe comes into the team, are built to play Xabi Alonso football. And even with a few players, I think it will take time, because you really look at the way this team has been deployed under Ancelotti over the last few seasons. And I'm not one of these guys that thinks Ancelotti was a bum or he was lucky or player quality just saved him all the time. No, I think Ancelotti at times is a very misunderstood manager. However, I definitely agree as well too that the last year or so, it started to get a little ugly. Like, you started to really wonder, what is this guy kind of having these guys do on the training pitch? But his way of coaching is very laissez-faire. Let's call it what it is. Like, it's very hands-off. He is more focused on kind of giving a platform for really the best attacking players to thrive off of. That's what he's done throughout his career, managing superstars. But he is hardly the most hands-on manager. And when you look at Xabi Alonso, or at least what he's shown up to this point, that's kind of his bag. What he had Leverkusen doing over the last 2-3 years was simply remarkable. And he is going to be a lot more hands-on, a lot more tactically astute than maybe Ancelotti was the last few seasons. And that's going to be kind of shown in the play. It is going to be ugly. And he even said it himself. We're going to be better the last game of the Club World Cup than we are the first. It is going to be a slow grind to get these guys up to scratch. Players that impressed me today from Real Madrid, I think the kid up front was decent. The kid up front was decent, Garcia. Even though his finish was a little booky, right? How much of it was intentional? I mean, he completely mishits it. But at the end of the day, as a striker, your bread and butter is goals. Doesn't matter how you get it. Get it how you live. But I actually thought over the whole 90 minutes, I thought it was a decent performance. And I think it was very telling as well, too, that Xabi Alonso dropped big players in this game throughout it. Vinicius off, Rodrygo off, Trent off, and yet he kept him. I think that tells you something, that there are no favorites in this Real Madrid team for Xabi Alonso. And some people might say, well, it's just a Club World Cup. This is a tournament that most teams are playing their best players in. They're actively trying to win it because of the financial success that you can be rewarded with. So to take off Vini when he did, to take off Rodrygo when he did, to take off Trent when he did, when all three of them have huge statuses in the game, shows you Xabi Alonso will not be fazed by superstar names. For him, it's based on merit. And I think Garcia fully merited his minutes today. On the topic of Rodrygo, look, he grabs an assist today, and it's a really, really nice pass. The goal that Real Madrid scored is quality. It is absolutely quality. A wonderfully built counterattacking move. Passes, kind of overloading the left-hand side until it gets to Rodrygo, and Rodrygo, a brilliant pass, direct, like perfectly on a golden platter into the path of Garcia to finish it away. It's a nice assist. But honestly, when I watch Rodrygo in this Real Madrid team, and when I watch Rodrygo for the last year in this Real Madrid team, it is very evident to me, and clearly he doesn't agree, but this is just my opinion. He doesn't have a place in this Real Madrid side. I'm sorry, he doesn't. Like, can he get minutes? Yes. Can he be useful? Yes. But are you maximizing Rodrygo in the way he's playing in this Real Madrid team? In my opinion, the answer is absolutely not. Having this guy hug the right touchline over a 90-minute game and asking him to really create magic on his left foot, which he isn't the strongest on, cutting in, or having to beat players with raw speed down the line, which isn't his strength either. He's a natural playmaker. He's a guy who wants to kind of make that intricate play off the left or even in central positions. Seeing him off the right at times just feels like such a waste. And I know he's come out and basically declared he wants to stay at the club. Alonso has said similar. I'm not completely sold, man. I think by the end of this Club World Cup and by the start of the season, like the end of the transfer window, I think Rodrygo links to other clubs, in particular Arsenal, will really start to heat up again. Because, look, as much as he wants to stay at the club and as much as Ancelotti, I'm sure, would love to kind of work with him and have him as an option, I feel like Rodrygo gets wasted in this team, man. You don't get to see the best version of Rodrygo playing on the right at Real Madrid. Now, on the other side, Vinicius had moments. He did have moments, especially in the second half. First 5 minutes of the second half, I thought he was absolutely electric. Started ripping his fullback to shreds, created the best 2 chances of the game damn near for Real Madrid, where Arda Güler hits the bar, and then I think it was Garcia who gets his header cleared off the line. He showed you that, look, it's still Vinicius Jr., and if you can get this guy back up to speed, right, the best version of Vini, you got one of the best players in the world again. But then there's other times where, again, you're seeing the same old frustration with Vini, losing the ball, trying to do too much, losing his balance at key moments, throwing his hands up in the air at times as well, too. That's going to be a big chore for a big task for Ancelotti, getting Vini back up to speed while still maintaining Mbappe's level at the way he kind of finished last season. Getting those two playing at their max capacity together was something Ancelotti, in my opinion, failed to do the entirety of last season. It is now up to Alonso to get the best out of them. And personally, in a 4-3-3 with Mbappe up front and Vinicius off the left, I still have my doubts. I still do. But the second half improved a lot for Real Madrid. I think the first half, Al Hilal were the better team, and I think they deserve to be winning. But the second half, I think Arda Güler made a big impact on the game. And he's somebody that I really want to see get more minutes for Real Madrid this season. I felt at times Ancelotti left him out of the team. Forget about even the 11, but left him out of the team, players coming into the game far too often. Arda Güler is a solution maker, man. He's a problem solver. He's got creativity. He's got a really good footballing brain. He's got a beautiful left foot on him. And he can unlock defenses. He can pick out passes. And I think he needs to be playing a lot more for Real Madrid, man. They have a lot of different profiles in this team. There's a lot of damn good players. But how many of them can you confidently say offer what Arda does? I'm not sure too many. And I think his impact in the second half was immediate from the jump. Hitting the bar, winning fouls, playing players through, just keeping possession in general. I think he's going to have a much bigger role under Alonso than he did under Ancelotti. But overall, right, it's a rough first game for Alonso, but I think it's also expected. Maybe you still expect them to win, and like I said, they almost had a penalty that kind of saw them over the line. But I think it's a fair result, and I think it's proof that Xabi Alonso ball will take not a long time, but it will take time to firmly kind of implement on the squad. It is going to take time. Any Real Madrid fan that really believed that on day one of Xabi Alonso's first game, Real Madrid would be popping the ball along, liquid football, 100 pass moves that finishes in. Let's be realistic a little. But full credit to Simone Inzaghi and to Al Hilal, because I think they've shown that, look, everybody has attention on the big European sides at this tournament. The PSGs, the Reals, the Cities, the Bayerns. But there's been a few dark horses in this tournament so far that I've really been impressed on. I'll name a few of them. Flamengo, I thought they put together the best performance by a non-European team that I've seen. Monterrey, give them full credit for getting that draw against Inter. Al Hilal today. Fluminense against Borussia Dortmund. There's some damn good non-European sides at this tournament. And one other thing about them as well, too. The support that they've brought with them has been nothing short of exceptional. I'm absolutely loving what the African fans are kind of bringing to this tournament, what the South American fans are bringing to this tournament, what the Asian fans are bringing to this tournament. It's something that so far, I think the European fans are kind of lacking on. I think they're playing catch up with these guys because I think all the best atmospheres have come from the non-European countries. Let me know what you guys are thinking about this tournament though, man. Seriously, I think there's been some ups. I think there's definitely been some downs as well too. But today in particular was a really, really enjoyable day for me. I really enjoyed the City Wydad game. Because even though the scoreline seemed pretty comfortable, I think Wydad showed me something today. And today, Al Hilal Real Madrid, maybe the best game of the tournament so far, at least from a competitive point of view. Let me know what you guys think down below. Leave a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace.